Good morning, students. So today we are going to see what is compact metric space and some of the theorem based on compactness. So a metric space MD is said to be compact if it is complete and totally bounded. What is mean by complete? Complete means every Cauchy sequence convergence in that metric space itself, and totally bounded also. What is totally bounded? A metric space is said to be totally bounded if it can be covered with epsilon balls, finitely many epsilon balls. Okay, so now we have an known example. We can say a subset K of R is compact, is said to be compact if and only if it is closed and bounded. If and only if it is closed and bounded. So this is also known as Hien-Borel theorem. This is or Hien-Borel property, Hien-Borel principle. Actually, Hien and Borel, these are two mathematicians. Okay. So how we can prove this? The proof is very easy. So suppose K is compact. Compact means by definition it is totally bounded and complete. So a set is totally bounded in R means it must be bounded, and since K is complete subset of R, K must be closed. We know that closed subset of a complete metric space is complete. Okay, we have already proved this. So it must be closed. So this proves one part. Now for another part, suppose K is closed and bounded. Now we want to prove it is compact and totally bounded. So again, a closed subset of complete metric space is complete. So it is complete, and every bounded set is totally bounded. Therefore, it is totally bound. Means that set complete as well as totally bounded. Therefore, it is compact. Okay. Now, which are the examples? Close interval. Suppose close interval 0, 1. What we know about this? Whether it is compact. So if we want to check whether it is compact, first we should know whether it is complete and whether it is totally bounded. So it is totally bounded and it is complete also. We have already proved that. Okay. So this is closed, complete, totally bounded, and actually if you use this theorem, above theorem, example, Hien-Borel principle, when it is compact, if and only if it is closed and bounded, right? Closed and bounded. So it is enough to check whether it is closed and bounded. It is subset of R. Close interval 0, 1 is a subset of R. So if by Hien-Borel theorem, if it is closed and bounded, it is sufficient to say it is compact. And we know that this is closed as well as bounded. Therefore, it is compact, right? Okay. Now, but this open interval 0, 1 is not compact. Why? Because it is not closed, or already we have seen it is not complete also, right? This is not complete. This is not open interval 0, 1 is not neither you can say neither closed, is neither closed. This is also sufficient, but not complete also, not complete. Because we have already seen one sequence, Cauchy sequence. 1 by n is a Cauchy sequence in open interval 0, 1, but it does not converge to element of open interval 0, 1. Okay. Now, next example, in a discrete space, in a discrete metric space, a subset is compact if and only if it is finite. In a discrete metric space, a subset is compact if and only if it is finite. So let M be a discrete metric space and A is a subset of M. Now suppose A is compact. We want to prove it is finite. Now since it is compact, by definition it is totally bounded also. And we know that totally bounded subsets of discrete metric space are nothing but finite sets. Therefore A is finite set. Now to prove converse, suppose A is finite. Suppose A is finite. Now since M is discrete, A must be totally bounded, because totally bounded sets are nothing but finite sets. And since every subset in M is closed, A must be closed. Therefore M is compact, because every we know that this result, every discrete space is complete. Okay, we already proved this. Therefore A must be complete. Now next theorem, this is also important theorem, we can say. A metric space MD is compact. A metric space MD is compact if and only if every sequence in M has a subsequence that converges to a point in M. What we want to again go through the statement carefully. A metric space is compact if and only if every sequence in M has a subsequence that converges to a point in M. Means we want to, if it is compact, we want to prove the existence of a subsequence. Subsequence means it will be like, if Xn is a sequence, if it is a sequence, it must have a subsequence. It must have a, instead of this I will write, it must have a subsequence. Subsequence, how we denote? Xn k. So there exists, for every Xn sequence in M, we can say there exists a subsequence, which subsequence we can say subsequence Xnk, such that converges to point X, which will be in M, that we want to prove. Okay, so this is first part, and secondly another part we will prove. So suppose MD is compact. So compact means it is totally bounded and complete by definition. And we start with a sequence. Let Xn be a sequence in M. Since M is totally bounded, we have already proved this theorem. Every sequence in M has a Cauchy subsequence, right? Since it is totally bounded, every sequence in M has a Cauchy subsequence in M. Cauchy subsequence. And now therefore Xn has a Cauchy subsequence, say Xn k. Now since M is complete, we know that every Cauchy sequence converges in M. Therefore it must has a that Xn must has a convergent subsequence which converges to points in M. Now conversely, suppose every sequence in M has a convergent subsequence in M. So what we want to prove? We want to prove it is compact. Compact means complete and totally bounded we want to prove. So since it is a convergent sequence, it must be Cauchy, and every Cauchy sequence in M has a Cauchy subsequence. Therefore it must be totally bounded. Okay. Now to show it is complete, let Xn be a Cauchy subsequence in M, and by assumption Xn has a subsequence which converges in M. So by it proves it is complete. So converges in M, therefore it is complete, and hence it is so complete and totally bounded means M must be compact. Okay. Just this all follows from definition itself. Just you have to know what is mean by complete, totally bounded, results of totally bounded, and compact, definition of compactness. Okay. Now next theorem, if f from MD to N row is continuous and k is compact in M, then f of k is compact in N. What is mean by that? What is given? Just f from MD to metric space MD to n row, and which is given to be continuous map. F is a continuous map and K is a subset of M, which is compact. Okay. And what we want to prove? We want to prove our claim is f of k, its image, continuous image of a compact set is compact. That we want to prove. That is, continuous image of a compact subset of M is compact. That we want to prove. Okay. Now to show f of k is compact, we will start with a sequence in f of k. So let yn be a sequence in f of k. So yn must be equal to f of xn for xn belongs to k. Now xn is a sequence in k and k is given to be compact. So it must has a subsequence which converges to some x in k by previous theorem. Okay. Now since f is continuous, f of xn k converges to f of x, where f of x belongs to f of k, right? Now yn has a subsequence yn k which converges to which converges in f of k, which converges to element in f of k. Therefore f of k must be compact, right? Okay. So now next theorem, let metric space MD be compact, and if f from M to R is continuous, then f is bounded. Okay. What is given and what we want to prove here? F from MD to R. M to R. M is a metric space which is given to be again continuous. And what is M is given to be? M is compact. Then we want to prove what is our claim? F is bounded. F is bounded, and moreover it attains maximum and supremum and infimum, I think. F attains its maximum and minimum values. Moreover also F attains its maximum and minimum values. That we want to prove. Okay. So how we will prove this? So since f from M to R is continuous, what can we say about f of M? Now M is compact. So just now we have proved continuous image of a compact set is compact. So what can I say about f of M? It is also compact in R, and every compact subset in R is totally bounded. Totally bounded is bounded. Therefore f is bounded in M, right? Now we want to prove f attains its maximum and minimum values. So let n is equal to supremum of f of x, and L denotes infimum of f of x, where x belongs to M. Now we show that our aim is to show that n and L belongs to f of M. Okay. Now suppose on the contrary, assume there does not exist any x in M such that f of x is equal to n. Means f of x is not equal to n for every x in n, right? If there does not exist x in M, which if there does not exist any x in M such that f of x is equal to n, means for every x in M, f of x is not equal to n, means n minus fx must be greater than 0 for every x in M, right? Are you getting this? N minus fx, if fx is not equal to n, means n minus fx must be strictly greater than 0 for all x in M. Then I can now take g of x is equal to 1 upon n minus f of x, which is continuous on M, and since it is continuous, it must be bounded, right? So this implies there exists k greater than 0 such that g of x is less than equal to k for every x in M by definition of bounded function. So 1 upon n minus f of x is less than equal to k for every x in M. Now if I write this inequality another way, 1 by k is less than equal to n minus fx for every x in M. So this implies fx is less than equal to n minus 1 by k for every x in M. So what can I say about this? N minus 1 by k is an upper bound, right, for f, right? N minus 1 by k is an upper bound and n is the least. Okay. Now why n is least? Because we have started what we have assumed, n is supremum. Supremum means least upper bound we are saying. So now n is an upper, n minus 1 by k is an upper bound and n is least. So n must be less than equal to n minus 1 by k, which is contradiction. Okay. Therefore there exists x in n such that f of x is equal to n. Now similarly, suppose f of x is also not equal to L for all x in M. What is my L? L is nothing but infimum of f. Now since fx minus L is strictly greater than 0 for all x in M, what can I say about hx? If I define hx is equal to 1 upon fx minus L, it must be continuous in M and hence it must be bounded also. Now since it is bounded, there exists some real number, say p greater than 0 such that hx is less than equal to p for every x in M. So this implies 1 upon f of x minus L is less than equal to p for all x in M. Therefore what can I say? 1 upon p is less than equal to fx minus L for all x in M, right? So this implies L plus 1 by p is less than equal to fx for all x in M. But this implies L plus 1 by is a lower bound for fx. But what is L? L is nothing but infimum. Infimum means it is the greatest lower bound. So L plus 1 by p must be less than equal to L, and which is contradiction. So we are getting contradiction because our assumption is wrong. Therefore there must exist x in M such that fx must be equal to L. Therefore f at x is maximum and minimum values. Okay. Now next theorem, M is compact. M is compact if and only if whenever G is a collection of open sets. M is compact if and only if whenever G is a collection of open sets in M with M is contained in union of G, then there are finitely many sets, say G1, G2, Gn in G, such that M is contained in finite union of Gi's. Okay, try to understand this statement. M is compact if and only if whenever G is a collection of open sets in M with M is contained in union of G, means what is this? This is nothing but a cover open. This forms a, okay, this is nothing but a cover for M, and we want to open G is nothing but open sets, collection of open sets. G belongs to script G. So M is contained in union of G, then there must exist finitely many sets in that cover such that M is contained in that finite union of Gi's. Means every open cover must have a finite subcover. When this is possible? If and only if M is compact. That we want to prove. That is, in another words, this theorem can be stated as M is compact if and only if every open cover of M has a finite subcover. Okay. Now we prove one by one. We can prove first part. Suppose M is compact. So by definition, M must be totally bounded and complete. Now let G be a collection of open sets such that M is contained in union of G. Now we will what we want to prove? M is contained in union of finitely many GIs. So we prove on the contrary, we assume that M cannot be covered by finitely many GIs. Now since M is totally bounded, M can be covered by finitely many sets of diameter less than 1. Okay, diameter less than 1. Since M cannot be covered by finitely many G's, there exists at least one set, say A1, of diameter less than 1 such that A1 cannot be covered by finitely many G's. Actually it is GIs. Okay. Are you getting this? What is given? We are assuming it cannot be covered by finitely many GIs, where GIs are nothing but open sets in that collection script G. Now M is given to be compact. Compact means totally bounded, right? Compact means totally bounded, and we know that totally bounded means it can be covered by finitely many sets of diameter less than epsilon. So for epsilon 1 is equal to, also we will have some cover. So finitely many sets of diameter less than 1 say. So since M cannot be covered by finitely many G's, there is at least one set in that in this collection finitely many sets, say A1 of diameter less than 1, such that A1 cannot be covered by finitely many G's. Okay. So in particular, A1 is non-empty and is infinite. Right? Since A1 is contained in M, this implies A1 also must be totally bounded. Right? Now A1 is totally bounded means A1 can be covered by, again A1 can be covered by finitely many sets of diameter less than 1. Now instead of 1 we will now 1 for half also we can have. So A1 can be covered by finitely many sets of less than half. Now by above argument, there must exist at least one set, say A2, with diameter A2 less than half, such that A2 cannot be covered. A2 cannot be covered by finitely many GIs. Now continuing the same argument, we get the collection of sets A1 containing A2 containing A3 and so on, with diameter of n is how diameter of n? It is strictly less than 1 by n, such that no AI is covered by finitely many GIs. Okay. Now we are having the sequence of sets. We can say it is a decreasing sequence of decreasing sets A1. So since A1 is containing A2 containing A3 and so on, we can say their closure also follows the same, and diameter of n closure is less than 1 by n. Now we are having decreasing sequence of closed sets with diameter of n is less than 1 by n, means diameter of n closure tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Now what is M? M is compact. M is compact means it is complete also. So what can I say about this? It is a nested interval theorem. By a nested interval theorem, we can say infinite intersection of that n closure must be non-empty. So let X belongs to that intersection. Now X belongs to n closure also for every n. Now M is contained in union of G, means there exists G in G such that X must belongs to G. But now how is G? G is open. So there exists epsilon greater than 0 such that B epsilon of X is contained in G. Now since epsilon greater than 0, there exists n such that by Archimedean property 1 by n is less than epsilon, we can say. So diameter of n is less than 1 by n and 1 by less than epsilon. Now n is contained, this implies this n is contained in B epsilon of X and which is contained in G. Therefore this implies n in G and which is contradiction. Therefore, M can be covered by finitely many sets from G. That is, every open cover has a finite subcover. Now we want to prove the converse part. Now we want to show M is compact. That is, M is totally bounded and complete. We want to prove. Now for any x in M, x belongs to B epsilon of x. For any epsilon greater than 0, we get M is contained in union of B epsilon of x, right? So this B epsilon of x is nothing but an open cover for M, and by assumption it must has a finite subcover. Say there exists x1, x2, xn in M, so that M is contained in finitely union of B epsilon of x size. So this implies M must be totally bounded. Now it is remaining to prove it is complete. Now to prove complete, let F1, there is a sequence of non-empty closed sets. Let F1 containing F2 containing F3, decreasing sequence of closed sets, such that diameter of Fn tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Now what we want to show, if we show this intersection is non-empty, then already we have proved this 3 equivalent statement for completeness. From that we can say if intersection is non-empty, then M must be complete. So let Fn is equal to, denote this finite intersection by Fn. Intersection I is equal to 1 to n Fi. What is my Fn? What is my capital Fn? What is F1? F1 is nothing but F1. What is F2? F2 is nothing but F1 intersection F2. What is F3? Okay. Now since each Fn is non-empty, intersection of Fn is also non-empty for every n. Suppose it is infinite intersection is empty. So infinite intersection of Fi complement is nothing but M, and Fi complement is nothing but, since my Fi's are closed, Fi complement is open. This will be an open cover for M. So there exists n belongs to M, such that M is contained in union of Fi complement. This is open cover, finite subcover. So M complement is containing union of Fi complements and complement. If we take complement on both sides, this containing this subset will be superset, right? So M complement is nothing but, this is whole space, complement is nothing but my empty set. Okay, so this intersection, finite intersection, must be empty, but we have started with non-empty, right? We have already, this is non-empty, so there must be this is, which is contradiction, therefore M must be complete. Is that okay? Now next theorem, M is compact if and only if M is compact if and only if script F is any collection of, M is compact if and only if script F is any collection of closed sets in M, such that if finite intersection of Fi is non-empty for all choices of finitely many sets F1, F2, Fn in that collection script F, then intersection F is also non-empty. Now again, this is easy consequence. Suppose M is compact. Let F script F be collection of closed sets such that intersection Fi is non-empty for every n, and a finite intersection, and suppose this arbitrary intersection F is empty. Then what can I say about union of F complement? It is open cover for M. Now since M is compact, it has a finite subcover. Same thing, same on same lines. Previous theorem, we will get the things. Okay. So intersection must be non-empty. Now to prove M is compact, so let Xn be a sequence in M. Let Xn be a sequence in M. So let n is equal to, we denote n is equal to xk, k greater equal to n. Then what can I say about a1, a2, a3? a1 must containing a2, containing a3, and so on. What is a1? You can say, you can write here. What is a1? a1 is set of all xk such that k greater equal to 1. Means what is my a1? It is x1, x2, x3, and so on. What is a2? a2 is nothing but set of all xk's k greater equal to 2. Means x2, x3, x4, and so on. What is my a3? a3 is nothing but x3, x4, x5, and so on. So which one is bigger? a1 containing a2, containing a3, and so on, right? And each n is non-empty for every n. So we have a decreasing sequence of non-empty closed sets. This closed sets, if we take closure of that all sets such that n closure is also non-empty for every n, therefore intersection of n ai closure is also non-empty for all n. So by assumption, infinite intersection is also non-empty. Now let X belongs to this infinite intersection of ai. Since this intersection is closed, there is a subsequence. This intersection is closed. There is a subsequence xnk such that xnk converges to X. So X belongs to, this is by this theorem, okay? X belongs to a closure if and only if xn is a sequence in A such that xn converges to X. Therefore, M must be compact. Is that okay? This completes our compactness. In next lecture, we will see uniform continuity and the theorem based on compactness complete with correction with uniform continuity. Okay. Thank you.